Hello, everyone. This is Eric Kruger from KMC. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar featuring Tosibox. This will be an interesting and exciting topic for all of us in the system integrator community. I think it's particularly relevant in today's environment where secure access to your network, secure network topologies, and easy turnkey remote access have been fundamental into keeping our job sites moving. Today we have Pete Tews, our senior IoT integration engineer. He's going to be talking about some use cases and demonstrating how KMC technology integrates with Tosibox. And we're going to hear from Bill Bain, the president of Tosibox, and Jerry Reeves, chief engineer and global product manager. So with that, I'll give it to Bill, and he can tell us more about Tosibox.
Thank you very much, Eric. It's great to be on a call with you and Pete and the entire system integrator contractor community. As I recall, we've got people from all over the globe here, so that's super exciting. This partnership was born from the desire by KMC to bring products to you guys that makes your life easier, that helps you actually do the things your customers are asking you to do these days. Even more, having you be able to bring new things to your customers that they never expected, making these buildings perform in ways your customers never thought they would. And the good news is automation and technology has evolved in a manner that your lives can get bigger, better, and easier. As a starting point, let's get on the same page. Here we are in 2020, November. It's been quite a year. Smack dab in the middle of Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0, typically known as the time in space where it's cyber physical, it's IoT, it's data, and it's today's topic, which is networks. Your customers are asking for more. You as a system integrator controls contractor, you've got to perform in ways that maybe you didn't have to 5 or 10 years ago. So the purpose of this relationship and today's call is to actually teach you a new skill without you guys having to go hire new headcount to start creating infrastructure, to go back to school or anything else. So we look forward to that. So let's talk about the two types of networks that are typically out there. We're all familiar with traditional IT networks, those networks dealing with business, ERP systems and all of that. Today, we're focused on operational networks, otherwise known as OT networks, the networks you guys are going to start bringing to your world, managing that physical layer, focused on getting work done. For sure, you cannot understate the value of segmenting your operational systems from your IT systems. And at some point, they come together. Anybody who's been doing any kind of connectivity, remote access, or data collection for years knows that IT and OT haven't always gotten along. But now with technology and really the explosion of Industry 4.0, it's a given, and IT people really appreciate that network segmentation, that cybersecurity profile that you'll be able to bring with KMC and Tosibox. Tosibox is indeed automated OT networking. Additionally, we're that smart layer between IT and OT. So it's an interesting conversation we're getting ready to have. After I'm done talking for the next, I don't know, 5 or 7 or 10 minutes, we're actually going to bring Pete on. He's going to talk about what he knows about Tosibox, and then Pete and Jerry are going to demonstrate creating an actual network in seconds. This is our version of the outdated IoT model, folks. This is sensor data up to the cloud, hard stop. That's the original model. The model now, the things that you deal with every day, looks more like this. It's data flowing in every direction. It's crazy out there. It's who's got access to where and what and when. In some ways, it's unmanageable from a traditional IT perspective. And the reason you're on this call today and the reason we partnered with KMC is because even if you don't know IT, you can create these topologies, and we're going to start that process today. We know for sure speaking directly to all of you, in 150 countries, cyber scalability, cost, interoperability, and complexity are the 5 main stopping points to bringing your buildings to life. We also know, as your customers are asking for more and you start to think about how you're going to build out your OT networks, campus-wide, citywide, globally, these are 5 things you simply have to have. And if it doesn't start with cybersecurity, you're doing something wrong. It's got to be scalable at a cost perspective. It's got to be simple, and it's got to work well with IT. Not to mention, these networks have to be useful networks that you can integrate and work down at that layer 2 level, that backnet IP level. That's what you're getting today with Tosibox. And speaking directly to all of you on this call, 5 easy operational wins when you get your OT networks right. The thing I like to focus on first always is cybersecurity. You win the cybersecurity narrative. Now you can bring cybersecurity through your brand to your customers. But also I like the idea of less focus on IT, more focus on your customers. That's a winning proposition. You get to modernize your personal business model. You get to, like I said earlier, have these buildings do things building owners had no idea they could even do. What's been available, folks, up until now, and don't get me wrong, building automation, you guys have been, in some cases, decades ahead of other industries. You guys understood the value of connecting. What's been available really hasn't been built for the OT. On the far left, traditional Cisco and all of that stuff, it's not commercially viable. The ROI is not there. It's too complicated, and it's not built for the operational networks. The second column, also traditional IT, might be creating your own IPsec tunnels or using a cellular router, cradle point, or something like this, where you've got to deploy static IPs. You still have to know how to build a firewall, do the encryption, create a VPN. Also, at the level you folks are going to scale, not viable. That's why we're talking about Tosibox, networking designed from the building up. If you think about starting to scale out using traditional IT, the hard reality is your cost, complexity, and cybersecurity risk becomes unmanageable. With Tosibox and your partnership with KMC, you can now scale as fast and large as you want. And with our automation, cost, complexity, and cybersecurity risk become manageable. And more importantly, they match the business models that are out there with your customers. So it's fair to say, folks, we've taken the cost, complexity, and cybersecurity risk out of connecting your world. Let's touch on cybersecurity briefly. All of this is embedded into our technology. You'll see Jerry create a network with fully embedded cybersecurity in 10 seconds. Networks create, secure, and heal themselves. That takes you out of the process, right? Human error's gone. No third-party cloud routing. That's a data privacy issue, but it also allows you to have those authentic and organic point-to-point networks that are backnet IP friendly. Physical first multi-factor authentication. This is an interesting one, folks. For your customers, you're going to help them build infrastructure. There will be no access using username or password, or even two-step authentication. Now, the only access that you'll be able to build to your customer's building is physical first. I've got to have something in my hand, and I've got to know something. That's similar to your ATM experience. In fact, it's exactly the same. Have something and know something. It's also important to note that with Tosibox and the network's infrastructure you build with Tosibox, you're not engaging the traditional static public IP world, the dynamic DNS server farms. Your customers are building global private infrastructure. That's a big deal, and that's one of the reasons Tosibox goes a long way to make this frictionless with your IT. So let's think about you inside of a building. You never, when you're segmenting your BAS or whatever it is, your lighting system, your access control with Tosibox, you never have to beg for an IP address from IT. You don't need to add, you never need to ask them to open any weird ports. There's never an inbound port. So in addition to the remote access you're getting, you're also giving the local IT professional a sense of calm and peace of mind that you've segmented your BAS from their traditional IT systems. That's how we go a long way to create that frictionless IT OT. If you're wondering if these building owners are going to let you in their buildings, the answer is yes. And by the way, the folks at KMC and the folks at Tosibox will help you learn how to do that. So it's easy to get started as I wrap up. As Pete likes to remind us, people just want to get to their stuff. They want to get to their stuff for remote maintenance, uploading firmware, troubleshooting. With Tosibox, you could start with lock and a key and have remote access built in. It takes 10 seconds. In that same 10 seconds, you've also engaged access control. So maybe you want another vendor in, or check this out, maybe you need Pete's help. You can give Pete access in about a minute. We're going to highlight that today. But guess what? In that same 10 seconds, you can create local, let's say campus-wide infrastructure. So maybe you've got those 6 buildings and the 7th building has a supervisory controller behind it. Now you've got machine to machine, building to building, all done, all built in. And as you progress in your Industry 4.0 journey, all these locks are programmed in that first 10 seconds to start reporting up to a cloud environment or a data environment on-prem or wherever it is you want to concentrate your networks. You're starting to see, folks, you're future-proofing yourself. You're starting with remote maintenance, but your business is ready to go to the next level. I'm going to talk super briefly about this one retail case. It's one of my favorites because it's so basic. This is 350 locations. This could be a bowling alley. This could be a hotel. It could be a commercial space. It looks like this in the lower left. You've got hundreds, indeed thousands of devices on a very flat network behind the Cisco firewall. Well, organizations and all of you need to be teaching your customers the value of differentiating the OT from the IT. Not to mention, now you've got access control, cybersecurity, your HVAC's not sitting next to the admin printer on the same flat network. I heard a stat today, by the way, that there's 87 billion square feet of real estate in America. A full 80% of that is sitting behind DSL modems with LogMeIn, TeamViewer, or public IP addresses. There's a lot to connect here, folks. But in this particular case, you put a lock in each building. You've now standardized your cybersecurity and your connectivity profile. You're able to pull data. You're able to give access to any system integrator. You could bring camera video through that. In minutes, you're connecting buildings that used to take days and weeks to do. So as I wrap up, I want to say building your infrastructure now is like building using Lego blocks. You use those locks in the far left there at the building site. With one lock, you can build a Class A network behind it. You can have 50 engineers going through it at once, all while it's reporting up to your Niagara framework. Keys are for users. You can have an unlimited number of users given access to a single building, or a single user with unlimited access to an unlimited number of buildings. The flexibility we're bringing is unmatched. And when you're ready to start doing infrastructure, you can concentrate your networks anywhere you want. That's it for me. I do want to say that, we're a global company. We're in 151 countries now. What's interesting for you folks on this call is the brands you see here, a good half of them are building automation. Facebook data centers, every NBA arena, Amazon, UPS, you name it. We don't just work with KMC, we work with all the big companies in the world. We even work with the likes of Cisco, who understand the value of segmenting operational networks from their Cisco network. So that's it for me. At this point, I'd like to hand this over to Pete. Pete, why don't you kick off the demo section of this?
Okay. A couple weeks ago, we sent Jerry some hardware that he's got in his test lab. He's got a 5901 and he's got a 9001 VAV controller. And what we're going to do today is kind of have Jerry show off how to build your Tosibox network. And then once he's got that built, he's going to call or send me what they call a soft key, and I'll be able to log or put that on my machine and then remotely log in to his building automation network, and using our software be able to configure the controllers that are sitting on his network. And by the end of the demo, we'll have we'll blink the light or something like that and show that we have connectivity. And then I've got a brief demo to show how you can connect two buildings with standalone backnet networks and utilizing Tosibox and get them to talk together. So Jerry wants to take over and show us the Tosibox side. You guys are in for a good treat today. This is a pretty neat demo.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Let's jump in, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And so you should be able to see my video, and you should see a very basic schematic of what we're going to put together today. It may look fairly complex, but to Bill's point, we're going to be leveraging a lot of Tosibox automation to get this done for us. And what you're going to see here is that the infrastructure that we build allows you to perform simultaneous data acquisition and remote support. You don't need special BBMDs or for site-to-site connections, and you'll see that with Pete's side of the site-to-site demo here a little bit later. And then also, when Pete engages my network, his PC with his KMC software is going to be able to talk to the entire backnet infrastructure, not just the IP devices, but even down to the MSTP devices as well. So what we'll do in step one here, okay, is I'm going to build our basic network. I've got our KMC devices here. I need to finish off this network and secure it with this lock. And I'm going to show you how I make that connection, and then also connect this network up to a data center where you might have Niagara, SkySpark, or some other software working as a data framework. All right. You'll notice here that I've got one of the 5901 controllers, a 5051 router, and a 9001 VAV controller that's actually connected by MSTP to the 5051. Once we get all this set, and it's only going to take a few minutes, Pete's going to take over. I'm going to send him that soft key, and he's going to now connect as layer 2. Layer 2 is one of the fundamental networking techniques that Tosibox's point-to-point technology brings. And what that means is with that layer 2, he can access the full BAS network, okay, and he can manage that MSTP device all the way through the backnet stack, all the way down to the VAV controller, all right? And then finally, when we put it all together, this is the full network that we're gonna have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different VPNs, and we've got about 20 minutes, so we're gonna knock it out. Last thing I want to say, we're starting the demo section here. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions, we're using the GoToWebinar application. Go ahead and start logging your questions into the questions section. Bill, I'm going to call on you to curate if you don't mind, and we'll be able to have those queued up for us if we have time here at the end.
Yeah, I was going to volunteer Eric to do it, but yeah, go for it, Bill.
There you go. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing I need to do is finish off my network here. I've already got my devices powered on. They're networked together, but I need to secure this network and set it up so I can engage it remotely. To do that, I'm going to use a Tosibox lock, all right? But first, I need to adopt this lock into my overall infrastructure, and I do that with a Tosibox key. This USB key has a crypto processor chip on board, And that crypto processor chip is what gives me my physical factor of authentication. I need this key plus my password to gain access to my Tosibox networks. As Bill mentioned before, there is no username and password or two-step authentication with SMS. It's true physical first multi-factor authentication, just like your ATM experience. I also use this key to adopt this lock, and it goes something like this. USB key into the USB slot of this lock. 10 seconds. I'm swapping security certificates, setting up the firewall, configuring the VPN security, and initializing the very first access control for this key, which now becomes the master to this lock. After those 10 seconds, I can take this key out, and I'm finished. That lock is now set up as part of my overall infrastructure. I'm going to use it on this network here, okay, to secure it and segment it and make connections to it. But I can box this lock up, sit it anywhere in the world, and I can now make a layer 3, layer 2 connection directly to it from my laptop. So let's get this thing connected up here.
And by the way, folks, this is where I like to remind you, if you paid attention for that last 10 seconds, you just learned how to network.
Okay, I have installed that lock. I've given it power. I've given it a broadband connection with that red cable. I've taken a green cable to my network switch, which is going to get me connected to my KMC gear up here on the rack. And now what I've done is I've put my key into my laptop, which brings up my login screen. And once I put my password in, if I can slow down, put that in correctly. There we go. Up comes my key software. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this key software exists securely on my PC. This is not some web page or web portal out in cyberspace that everybody and their brother has access to, okay? This key software exists, come on, Norton. This key software exists securely on my PC, all right? Now, what you see here is a list of all the networks I've created with my Tosibox key. I've got traffic control, I've got building automation, I've got industrial networks. It doesn't matter, they're all centralized here on my software. I am a new lock is the one that I just serialized here. I'll go ahead and rename this. We'll call this the number 2 demo. We'll say KMC new headquarters, okay? And I can go ahead and begin to connect, all right? I'm already connecting and making my very first VPN from my laptop directly to this lock, all right? I didn't have to get a static IP. I didn't have to get any expensive gear, all right? And already you can see the 2 devices, my controller, okay, and my router right underneath this lock, okay? Additionally, I have my data center up here in New Jersey, okay? All these systems are here with me in South Carolina. I can very simply add this building automation network up to my data center where maybe I'm running some sort of framework software or energy management software or ongoing maintenance software, all right? I can very simply do that all because I've plugged that key into that lock for 10 seconds. And to do that, I very simply, I'm going to go ahead and get into that lock here in the data center right now when it connects. Here we go. It looks like the same interface as the lock on my desk. Very simply, to connect this lock to that data center, devices, connect locks, here, all right, connect those 2 together. Next, layer 3 for data. Next, save and finish. Boom. I've now added this lock to my data center lock in just a few seconds, and now I'm creating my second VPN from this lock straight to New Jersey, through which those applications that are running in my data center can now talk to my KMC gear, okay, and be part of a larger operational network. So flashing back to our screen where we're running our topology, okay, I've just created all of this in just a matter of a few minutes. All right. Now, let's get into the fun stuff. I've got my BAS network going. It's working some data. It's managing my building. But now it's time for some upgrades. It's time for some improvements. And so now I'm going to leverage Pete and get Pete involved because he's obviously the KMC guru. So Pete, I'm going to give you access to my network.
Hey, hold on, Jer. Let's take a deep breath, Pete. Let's throw a couple questions out that are relevant right now before we go over to Pete, all right? So I'll let you answer this one, Jerry, although I'd like to. So Jason asks, what happens if you lose your USB key? Now, before you answer, I want everybody to know we're a cybersecurity company first and foremost. Go ahead, Jerry, answer that question.
That's right. So what happens when you lose your USB key? Well, you actually end up with two keys. You buy two keys when you create a Tosibox network. You buy a master and you buy a backup. You also have the ability to issue soft keys out to technicians or customers or vendors. That's what I'm going to send Pete here in a few minutes, or mobile clients. But the important part here is, everyone, true two-factor authentication, physical plus knowledge base, okay, is now the de facto standard for authentication security. Microsoft just came out and said two-step authentication with SMS is no longer a trusted means of authentication. Username and password was gone years ago, all right? So Tosibox brings you that true two-factor authentication, which checks the cybersecurity boxes you need when you're talking to IT.
Got it. All right. So Jason also follows up with, and this is an easy one, in addition to the keys, what happens if the technician's laptop fails and the list of locally stored software keys is lost? Very good question, Jason.
Great question. So if a technician loses their laptop, okay, the keys are what have the information. So if the technician still has their key, they can use another laptop, plug it in, all that information is there. All right. If a subordinate technician that's only using a soft key loses their laptop or damages it, a master key can very simply revoke their key and reissue it to their new device once it's received. All right. So great questions, Jason. Well done.
All right. Tom wants to know what TCP or UDP ports need to be open, if any, to allow tunneling. Are these configurable?
So there's only, Tosibox has 5 ports. It can be outbound 80, 443, 8000, 29000, or 57051. All outbound ports. You only need one of those for Tosibox to work. We also recommend a smattering of outbound UDP ports as well. And all the port information can be found on our FAQ site at tosibox.com/support.
All right. So the next question from John. To do this, I assume what you just did, Jerry, you had to connect the lock to the owner's IT network, correct? How do you get them to okay the connection, and how do we convince them it's secure? I'm going to start. John, you always need an internet connection. So you need to plug in copper from the building owner, or Wi-Fi, or often in building automation, guest Wi-Fi is all you need, or satellite or cellular. So obviously you need an internet connection. With our technology, Tosibox goes a long way to give IT a level of comfort, because this is the same kind of network they would build. They're happy to segment your stuff from their stuff, knowing they don't have to open any inbound ports or any unusual ports or keep up with static IPs and all of that. Jerry, what would you add to that?
No, I think that's a good overview, Bill. And I would say that the technology that is built and automated within Tosibox, exactly as you said, Bill, is exactly what they would build themselves. All right. But they only have the more complicated means to do so. So you can rest assured when you're presenting a solution like Tosibox, as I said before, you're checking the connectivity and cybersecurity boxes necessary to make that conversation. And if you're not comfortable doing so, definitely take Bill up on your offer. Grab Pete and I from KMC and Tosibox. We're happy to back you up in those conversations as well.
Yeah. Let me tell you guys, Jerry's gotten companies like Caterpillar, and they go deep on this stuff to sign off on this, and Facebook and all of that. So they appreciate the technology that's built in, the simplicity and the network segmentation. That's all the questions for now, Jerry. Let's move on.
All right, I'm creating a soft key for Pete. And so Pete, I'm going to drop this code into the chat here for you. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to chat, and it goes to the entire audience so everybody will see what the code looks like. But Pete's going to copy that code. All right, and we're going to leave it on my screen for a bit here so y'all can see how the handshake works. Pete's going to drop that code into the exact same key software I'm using, okay? But he doesn't have a USB key. He has a soft key now. So when he drops that code in and he hits activate, it'll send me an indication to approve his activation.
Yep.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I gotta.
Mullen, this is what you asked about earlier. So this would overcome that issue of having USB keys.
That's right. Now, because Pete is getting a serialization code from me, remember two-factor authentication, he is going to have to create his own password, right? You got to have the physical part. There it is. So I know it's Pete. I see his user account, his MAC ID, his IP address. I can confirm that it is Pete. I hit accept, confirming his soft key. Okay, I can choose his access rights. I'm going to give him access to my KMC demo here, right? I'm going to set him as layer 2 because he needs to get to the deep backnet portion here. Hit next, save, and finish. And now Pete has access to this network. So Pete, if you're ready, just for everybody, we're going to be working on this next. Pete's going to make this connection, and he's also going to show off our site-to-site here on the bottom. So Pete, if you're ready, I'll make you a presenter.
I am ready.
Coming at you, buddy.
Hope everybody's doing well today. That's my puppy dog, Rufus. He came along for the show. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to remotely log into Jerry's equipment. I'm sitting in Portland, Oregon. And Jerry, where are you again? I completely forget.
Yeah, I'm down in Bluffton, South Carolina.
So he's in South Carolina. I'm in Portland, Oregon, and we're going to talk shop across the internet. So don't look at my password, everybody, as I log into my Tosibox soft key that I just got sent from Jerry. It's going to come up. It's waiting for confirmation. It's got to chit chat with the server. Once it does that, it's going to pop up the locks that Jerry has given me access to. Demo KMC new headquarters, I dig that one. Locks online ready to connect. I simply click connect. Authenticates. Bill has dot connector on his LinkedIn, and every time I'm waiting for it to do that, all I hear is Bill singing connect the dots to me. So it might be something. So once I'm connected in, I go into my backstack routing service and I choose the Tosibox tap window adapter. Click OK. It's going to restart my backnet service. We'll go ahead and let it. Log into my Connect software, go over to my backnet in my network manager. I'm going to regenerate all those networks. And magically, there's Jerry's 9001 VAV controller that's sitting on his network. And there's his 5901 that's sitting on his board.
I'll turn my video back on so everybody can see it.
Yeah. And so now, if I go out to binary output 1, just to prove that I'm in control of it, I'm going to turn a little red LED light on for him. And I can't see you now, Jerry, so you're just going to have to be my kind of.
It's right there. It's on.
Okay.
Number 1 is on.
Can relinquish that default. And it should have gone away on you.
And it's gone.
So I can get in, I can do everything just like the controller was sitting on the desk right next to me. I can go in, I can do programming, I can do troubleshooting on different inputs, outputs. I can go in and do everything it's just like the controller sitting right next to you. So if this isn't cool enough, with a demo, being able to go in remotely and support. So, Jerry, how long did it take you? I'd say a minute to put the lock onto your network.
Right.
10 seconds to authenticate the key to the lock. Maybe a couple seconds to climb up the ladder and secure in the Tosibox. And then a few moments to send me your soft key. And now I have full connectivity to do anything on that automation network.
That's right. And also, Pete, we're now up to 3 simultaneous VPNs. The one I have to this lock is layer 3, the layer 3 from this lock to my data center, and now Pete, you're into this lock also layer 2. And if you see Pete's key software here where it says P2's 1, what that means is that's Pete's laptop, but you'll see it in the list underneath this lock, meaning Pete's laptop is physically on this network. It's like he dragged a virtual PAC cable from the Northwest down to South Carolina here. So that's why Pete's able to do all that fun stuff through his software as if he's sitting right in front of the system.
One of the super cool things that I like about Tosibox is that you can come over here, you can see, what devices are on your network, but with the simple click of a button, I can open up the devices and do all of my configuration, all of my editing, all of my troubleshooting. Jerry calls me up and says, hey, my VAV box isn't working. I can come over to his MSTP trunk and I can run all of my troubleshooting tools that I have on my router. I'm sitting in Portland and Jerry's box is down with him. So, it's really cool how quickly this can be done. For remote support of users, this is an amazing thing. So let me disconnect from you, Jerry, and I'm going to plug my lock in. And what I'm going to do, I'll show you guys real quick here. The simulation that I have set up for you today, I have 2 different networks, 2 different buildings. We're going to call it PT3 Labs, which is basically my development network in my garage, and then Puddleville Industries, which is my office. 2 totally separate networks. They have totally different ISPs. For all intensive purposes, they could be on either side of the globe. Right now, both of them are standalone backnet networks. The only way to get into it is with some on-site front-end access. We sell a product called Commander, which allows us to take all of the backnet information and put it up into the cloud so you can do some remote trending, scheduling, and alarming. But I still can't do any of the remote troubleshooting, as in program editing, anything like that. I can't see any of the web pages to do my router config. So that's where Tosibox comes in. We throw a Tosibox onto the network, and on Puddleville Industries, I have a Link 500, which is the one we're going to keep as the lock today. And we're going to absorb PT3 Labs into my Puddleville Industries network, all in about 45 seconds, I think. So with that kind of covered, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this. So let me minimize this, close out this. I'm plugging in my Tosibox key for my locks. And that's just telling us that Jerry's controllers went offline because my Connect software can't see it anymore, which we kind of expected that. So this is my Tosibox. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Pete's his own master now. So he's using, I used my key, right, to create my network, and I sent him a soft key, which made him a member of my network. Now, for Puddleville and PT3, Pete is the master, and he's managing his networks as his own administrator.
Exactly. So I log into my key. And these are my locks that I have right now. And I have it set up to connect to Puddleville. So here I'm connected. Here's my laptop, just like it was on Jerry's network. My laptop is now physically sitting in my Puddleville Industries network. Here is my 5051 for that network and my commander that's sitting on that network. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into my Connect software. I'm going to reset my backstack service. Every time you change your Tosibox soft key or key, anytime you change a connection, you're going to want to definitely make sure that you reset your backstack so it knows to go out the correct Tosibox adapter. Regenerate all my networks. And then here's my air handler and my 5051. So I'm sitting here, I've got my air handler and my 5051 now. So this guy is connected. We're gonna now take, and we're gonna go up to devices. We're gonna connect the locks. We're gonna choose the two locks that we wanna connect together. It's gonna ask us which one do we wanna remain a lock. Click Save, click Finish, connect the locks. It's going to magically absorb PT3 Laboratories and put it under Puddleville Industries.
There you go.
Boom. We're going to go back in. Restart our BACnet service. Regenerate all my networks. And then there's my AHU, my VAVs, all my 5051s, my physical plant, all of these controllers. And all of these controllers, thanks to these two little Tosibox guys, are now one big happy network that I can go in and, again, just like before, I can go in, I can configure all of my inputs, my outputs, I can do my troubleshooting. The world is your oyster. If that is not the coolest thing in the whole wide world, I bet you, Bill, if you could hear everybody now, I bet you everybody would be going, oh, that's awesome. That is super simple.
It is so simple.
I mean, if I can do it, come on, guys, you can do it.
As we start to wrap up, by the way, folks, you're going to get a copy of this video tomorrow. So if you didn't remember everything, it'll all be sent to you. Not to mention, we're going to be creating additional trainings and ongoing video series. You know, Pete wants to go deeper than he just went right now. So this is all going to happen. Let's field a couple quick questions. Jerry, from Michael, we usually have a controls network that is isolated from the customer's network. The Jace is connected to both the controls network and the customer's network. The Jace only supports one gateway, and we use the customer's network for that gateway. If the Tosibox is on the controls network, can we still get to the Jace, even though its gateway is not set for the same as the controls Tosibox network?
So the answer is yes. Remember, the gateway is the address that the Jace uses to go out. What Tosibox does is it allows people to come in. So when you make your connection to the Tosibox, you are on the network already. So if you're on the OT network, you can come into the Jace through that port, okay? Now, I will say this, be careful when you're dealing with Jaces that are Ethernet capable, everything is about cybersecurity. So always make sure that you're asking the questions of your customers. How are they securing that connection from the Jace to the customer's network? What sort of firewalls are they using? What sort of access control? Okay. And additionally, all right, what sort of preventative measures protect the customer's network from the operational network? So all of those come into question, but the short answer is yes, you can gain access through the operational network as well.
I have a quick question for you, Jerry. What would stop somebody from just putting the Jace behind the Tosibox, leaving the Tosibox connected to the customer network, and then securing the network in that way, and giving the people that needed access through soft keys or whatever?
Well, and Pete, great lead in, because that's what we strongly recommend people start to do, because it's not necessarily the malicious actor that's on the customer's network that could come into the Jace. Totally. What you're more worried about is that, that HP printer that somebody put their USB key in to print pictures of their kid's birthday from the last weekend. And now that printer is looking for building automation gear, right? And looking for ways to penetrate those networks. So when you put a Tosibox as that segmentation tool, as you just said, Pete, and you use keys, you can't issue a key to a printer. And you can only issue keys to trusted personnel. And so you solve a lot of those problems in doing the topology you just described.
Cool. Yeah, that's the way I like to see networks laid out. Definitely. A lot more usability and features.
Yep. Hey, so as we start to wrap up, we are getting some questions about price lists and all that. Eric, if you wouldn't mind coming back up, or Jason, let's talk about the next step. I'm assuming that you folks, the folks at KMC, will send this entire channel, the price list and all that. Eric, anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, so the Tosibox equipment, the locks and keys have all been added to the active price list for our integrator network. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your favorite KMC support personnel or the account managers, and we can get you hooked up with either pricing information, technical information, or a demo for a customer if you'd like.
Very good. And then David over in the UK, I sent you with my tongue in my cheek that video of those two 4-year-olds setting up a network. But I can tell you, you'll be able to do this, my man, and you can reach out to me or anybody on the Tosibox or KMC team for help.
Bill, that is the exact video that I send everybody when people talk to me about Tosibox, because they talk about how they've had experience with some of your competitors, which will remain nameless. And they say, it's just a huge hurdle to try and get the device on the network and get people in. And, I show them a video of those two young ladies taking care of business. And, it's like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it.
Nice.
Very good. Hey, from my perspective, I'd like to wrap up my part by just saying, if the folks on this call, the KMC controls contractor and system integrator community are half as nice as the people at KMC, this is going to be fun. Jerry, anything you want to say to wrap up?
Yeah, I'll say this, that, working with Pete and the KMC team, this was obviously my first experience working with their fancy green boxes, and it is a seamless experience, and that's always a pleasure to see. I know Pete's had great experiences with it. I've had great experiences with it, and Bill, I look forward to putting together some more of those videos. There's a lot more that we can do with these two technologies together.
Yeah, that's great. And then KMC, Eric or Pete or Jason, why don't you take us home?
Well, I appreciate everyone joining us today. And like I said, if you have any questions, sales or technical, reach out to your your customer and technical support folks of choice. We want everybody to stay safe and happy and enjoy a very good holiday season coming up here in the next few weeks. So with that, enjoy your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day, everybody.
Yep.